Hi there. Welcome to another episode of News in Depth, where we take a closer look at the news and issues from Brevard County that you need to know about. I'm your host, Adam Lowenstein. On today's show, we'll rocket to space aboard the Shuttle Endeavour from a vantage point you may not have seen before. You'll hear from the law enforcement officer who survived after he was shot 7 times and left on a dirt road in a remote part of the county. We'll also check in with our education team to talk about the impending start of another school year, and we'll learn about changes ahead for a charter school in Palm Bay. And yes, we'll give you another video tip to help you get your home ready for tropical storms. But first up today, a murder mystery solved after nearly 3 decades. Donna Gratches had waited 29 years for the phone call that would bring her closure on the murder of her daughter. That call finally came as Miami-Dade police cracked the case. Dana Lindenberg was a graduate of Cocoa Beach High who moved to Miami as a young woman. In 1980, not long after she moved, the 20-year-old was raped and murdered. Now, a man already in prison for another murder has confessed to the crime. We sat down to talk about the case with Donna at her home in Melbourne.
My daughter's name was Dana Maria Lindenberg, and she graduated from Cocoa Beach High School, went to BCC, and she bought a trailer from working at McDonald's, took it down to Miami, and was there exactly 2.5 months before she was murdered. And I have many of the articles. These all go back. I kept them through the years, and she was missing for 22 days, and then they found her body buried behind her mobile home in Cloverleaf Trailer Park. The suspect back then is the same one that just confessed to her murder almost 30 years later. And he is a hardened criminal. He just confessed to another murder, another one in '89, and then he just confessed to her. And we've been waiting 29 years, 4 months, and 14 days to find out for sure. At least I know for sure what happened, even though we did suspect this guy for all those years. And he has a rap sheet so long over the years, and he keeps going to prison and he keeps getting out. So his sentencing will come up probably in a month or two on this murder. He was just sentenced to 37 more years for the murder of the girl in Palm Beach. I believe her name was Lynn Julin. And he was getting out before that in 2012. So he finally confessed to this one too. So if we're lucky, he may serve 20 years of that, which he will be 89 at that time. But who knows what will happen between now and then. The main thing was she was targeted from the day she moved in there. The wife was the manager of the trailer park.
His wife?
Yes, and he was the handyman. And she knew he was a rapist. He raped her daughter, and she had her daughter drop the charges against him. I've got things in there of his rap sheet and way back then. It goes on and on and on. And like all these, they get in prison and then they parole them and get them out, and they're back on the street doing the same thing. But now I'm angry. Well, I've been grieving for years, but now I'm angry that she didn't have a chance. If he didn't kill her that night, he went there to kill her because he took a gun. His MO was rape and strangulation, which he did, and then he shot her through the head and buried her behind her back in the woods. And I didn't even know she was missing for 5 days, and only a friend from Miami called us and told us. The police didn't contact me. They considered her a runaway with her car sitting in the driveway and her purse sitting there on the couch. And finally, her brother and her boyfriend are the ones that started the investigation. And they're the ones that went around and started investigating and went to the police and said she is not a runaway. So it took them about 12 days to even do anything. And I look at him and I don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel anything.
The painful wait for justice won't be nearly as long for Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Officer Van Streety. Christopher Eady already is charged with shooting the wildlife officer 7 times during a vehicle stop in Canaveral Groves earlier this month. Van Streety is recovering and told the story to reporters late last week. He says he aims to be back on the beat as soon as possible.
As most of you know, approximately a week ago, Officer Streety was patrolling a rural part of Brevard County when he made contact with a subject. During the course of that contact, in an altercation, Officer Streety was shot multiple times. During that time, his arms was almost totally incapacitated. Through his strong will to survive, Officer Streety was able to contact the communication center and request assistance.
I need a medical helicopter. I've been shot multiple times. First landing zone is probably going to be 520 in Satellite Road. 520 in Satellite. I'm at the far north end of Satellite Road. I'm in what they call the shooting range. I'm just north of Satellite and Sheridan. Both of my arms are just about inoperable. I need a medical helicopter now.
The one burning question I still have, and I will probably never have answered, as to why this 23-year-old man wanted to kill me that day. I'll probably never know that answer. But I do know I did everything that I possibly could to keep him from doing that. I was not going to die on that dirt road that day. I have too many people to take care of. I have too many people that love me.
We received Officer Streety by helicopter. He had received 7 gunshots. The extent of his injuries were 2 gunshot wounds to the left shoulder, which pretty much shattered his humerus. He had 2 gunshot wounds to his right hand with comminuted fractures of the 4th and 5th metacarpal bones. He also had 2 gunshot wounds to the back, to the right and left of the spine, and at approximately the level of the kidneys. His 7th gunshot was on his right hip thigh area.
Our interaction from the start was one that was not exactly polite. He started off as being very agitated and not cooperative. My dispatch informed me that he had a warrant for his arrest. I then attempt to effect an arrest, and he does not comply. He does not comply to my commands. He bows up at me. I drew a secondary weapon known as an expandable baton, and attempted once again to command him to do what I wanted him to do, and he wasn't going to have any part of that. He turned and ran to the front door of his car. I ran after him to effect the arrest. He got to the front door of the car first, and when the car door came open, that was where he had his pistol available. And it came out. He went to the front of the car, running. I went to the side, putting my patrol vehicle between us. And that's when I believe the first round from him was shot, and what I believe took out my right hand immediately. Which just left me completely unable to draw my weapon and fight back at all.
The Titusville Elks Lodge on Columbia Boulevard plans a fundraiser for Van Streety at 2 p.m. on August 29th. Now to education. Palm Bay's charter school is getting a leadership makeover. A new company is running the school. There's also a new principal. And starting this year, it will become the first charter school in the county to offer high school grades. This year, 9th grade is being added. Next year, the school will expand to 10th grade, and so on. We recently went on a quick tour of the school and checked out some of its latest technology with new principal David Calvo.
Hello, my name is David Calvo, and I'm the new principal of Palm Bay Community Charter School. This is an exciting time here at Palm Bay because we're opening up Palm Bay Municipal Charter High School, Brevard's only high school. This year, the school will start with a 9th grade, and we will add a grade each year until reaching the 12th. Hopefully we'll start with about 100 children and we'll work our way up as the school grows. I'm a Miami native with 14 years in the education field. Most recently, I worked for Academica, an education support provider. There, I helped them create schools all around the country. Prior to that, I helped found 2 charter high schools in South Florida. For the upcoming year, Palm Bay charters on a new management agreement with Academica Corporation. As Florida's largest support provider, Academica has a long history of success with its schools. Academica schools are known for their college preparatory focus, and students can expect academic rigor and excellence. We will be using the latest technology to accomplish this. Let's see an example of one of those technologies known as a Promethean board. This is a Promethean board, and this is an advanced version of a smartboard or like a whiteboard. So the teacher uses this interactively, and you have your projector here, and whatever's on the teacher's computer you can project here, and the teacher basically conducts the lesson here. There's one of my favorite features, and I wish I would have had this when I was a teacher, is the flipboard. So the teacher makes notes, the students do activities on the board, and then you press the button, it flips the page, as if it was a notebook. So now you have a clean slate. Kid says, wait, I didn't understand. Can you go back to the other page? Page comes back on. Now when I was a teacher, once you erased the board, if you didn't understand, that meant writing it all over again. But these devices are really, really handy. They're becoming now the standard norm in all the classrooms. And then the teacher does the entire lesson, and then at the end, post to my webpage, and now on the teacher's webpage, you have today's lesson. So the parent can say, Johnny goes home and says, I need help with my homework. What did you do today? Let's look at the teacher's notes. Let's look at what you did in the classroom, and that's there. We're looking forward to a successful year. If you would like additional information on Palm Bay Charter, please visit our website at www.palmbaycharter.net. Thank you.
Can you believe school starts up already next month? Brevard's teachers will realize it sooner than most. They return to the classroom next week, in fact, with students returning the following week. We thought it would be a good idea to catch up on the latest developments with our education team, Megan Downs and Michelle Spitzer. Here's their report from Suntree Elementary School.
Welcome to Cram Session on the Air, your stop for education news in Brevard County. I'm Megan Downs.
And I'm Michelle Spitzer. We're reporting to you from Suntree Elementary School. Teachers here and at Brevard's 93 other public schools will report back August 3rd. They'll have 1 week to prepare their classrooms and brush up on their teaching skills before students return August 10th.
It may feel as though students are returning to school earlier this year as they get into their classrooms during the mid-August heat. But the reason for that is because the Brevard Public Schools received a special exemption from the Save Our Summers law. Save Our Summers had required school districts to start their year no earlier than 14 days before Labor Day. But because of Brevard's high FCAT scores and other high-performing standards, they received a special exemption. They were one of only 11 school districts in Florida that were allowed to set their own start date.
Saturday is the back-to-school safari at the Brevard Zoo for low-income students in need of school supplies. The event is open to students on the free and reduced lunch program. Students are able to bring one adult while they tour the zoo and pick up school supplies. If you're unable to attend the event or it is filled, you can still get school supplies. The Brevard Schools Foundation will hand out leftover supplies at the school district offices in Viera on August 4th. They are still seeking supplies. If you would like to donate, you can contact the school district offices and find out where to drop off supplies. They can be reached at 633-1000, extension 756.
Early next week, teachers from around Brevard Public Schools will be attending in-services. These are where they brush up on their teaching skills and talk about best practices in teaching. One of the biggest in-services will be held at Cocoa High, where about 600 educators from the Cocoa area will hear from a consultant about Title I schools or those served with special money from the federal government. They'll be talking about how to achieve student success in some of the most struggling areas.
It's the first year of office for Superintendent Brian Bingley. Many are anxious to see what programs he'll initiate. It's also a first for Palm Bay's new Heritage High. The school will open with about 950 students in grades 9 and 10. Be sure to check back with our blog, Cram Session, at floridatoday.com/education for all your education news.
Thanks, Megan and Michelle. Shuttle Endeavor's astronauts have finished their construction work at the International Space Station and they'll be returning to Earth later this week. We thought we'd share with you some incredible footage from their launch to space, from an angle you don't usually get to see on launch day. These shots came from cameras mounted on the Space Shuttle's solid rocket boosters. The cameras captured the twin white rocket's flight up toward orbit and their tumble back to the ocean. Hang on as we go along for the ride.
We're go for main engine start. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Endeavour, completing Kibo and fulfilling Japan's hope for an out-of-this-world space laboratory.
Houston, Endeavour, roll program. Roger, roll, Endeavour.
This is Mission Control Houston. Endeavour's roll maneuver is being completed. It's now going into a heads-down position on track for its flight to the International Space Station. Flying at 400 miles per hour, 1 mile in altitude and 7 miles downrange already from the Kennedy Space Center.
Those booster rockets are recovered at sea and hauled back into Port Canaveral. They're ultimately refurbished so they can be used again for future space shuttle launches. How's that for recycling? And finally today, we have one more of our hurricane season how-to videos. We've seen the beginnings of tropical activity in the Atlantic this week, so listen up everyone. Videographer Tim Walters has prepared a video to help you make sure the screens on your patio are ready to handle those high winds. Take a look.
The main reason for screen enclosure failure during hurricanes is inadequate bracing within the roof frame. To check your enclosure's strength, push in and out on each vertical post. If you can easily shake the enclosure, you may need additional bracing along the roof and front wall of the enclosure.
You can find all of our hurricane how-to videos on our storm season website, only at floridatoday.com. Well, that's our show for this week. We'll be back next Tuesday with more about the stories and people of the Space Coast. We'll do our best to take you behind the scenes of the week's biggest headlines and show you some things you didn't necessarily see in the newspaper. For Today in Brevard, I'm Adam Lowenstein. See you next time.